It's Jenny's fault.
Yep.
Jenny was here and made us want to tell stories anyway instead of doing the show. It's the effect. She has a superpower that makes you tell stories.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go.
Wait, are we doing a show?
Yeah, I was about to. Yep.
Well, I should depart.
Thought you were just gonna. Here we go. Or I could do it this way where I actually turn up the right volume.
Oh, it's even better when you record the podcast. That's
know.
my favorite one.
Daily Tech News Show with Tom Merritt is brought to you by loyal patrons like you. If that's not you, head on over to bit.ly/helpdtns because giving a little always helps a lot. That's bit.ly/helpdtns.
This is the Daily Tech News for Tuesday, October 6th, 2015. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me on a Tuesday, Mr. Darren Kitchen, founder of Hack5, HAK5.org, DTNS contributor, and more. How are you doing, Darren?
I am awesome. It's so good to be here on a Liquid Tuesday. Where's Len?
Len's on Friday. We don't get Len on Tuesdays.
Not fair.
You're kind of spoiled with the Tuesdays because you get Len.
I really
with the Fridays.
I'm actually really excited to be here on a Tuesday. I feel like, Bright Eye and Bushy Tail, and we've got, what a lineup this week.
We've got early week Darren energy, which is awesome. And the reason we're switching is Patrick Beja wanted to do an episode about tech in Africa and bring on Eric Olander, who is in Vietnam but covers Africa and actually has an entire news organization for African tech news. So Eric, because of time differences and stuff, could really only do Friday. So we're going to have Patrick Beja on Friday with Eric Olander, and we're having Darren Kitchen on Tuesday. And we got drones, we got data transfers, we got hacks, we got all kinds of things to talk about.
Little snarkiness. Let's jump in
to the headlines. Microsoft continued the recent trend of tech companies announcing lots of stuff in long press conferences. Really hope they get over this soon. The big surprise was pretty cool. The Surface Book. It's a laptop. Microsoft finally making a laptop, 13.5-inch laptop with a 3000 by 2000 touchscreen running a Skylake processor, dedicated GeForce GPU with GDDR5 memory. That's in the keyboard. All the rest of the processors and everything else are in the tablet so that the screen can detach from the base, switching to Skylake's integrated graphics processor when it does and turning it into a convertible. In the U.S., the prices start at $1,499 for 128 gigs and 8 gigs of RAM, all the way up to $3,000 for the top-end model. Pre-orders start today for shipping October 26th. No word on pricing for the EU or the UK yet. It's also got this weird little snake-like hinge, Darren. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I saw the snake hinge, and that bugs me because it means it doesn't close fully. So that's the only major annoyance. But also, I'm just excited that Microsoft finally, after 15 years, has achieved the one of the goals that it set out to do with Windows XP, which I think at the time was codenamed Mono, not to be confused with .NET. But that was the whole concept, that you'd be able to take the screen away and still be logged in and have a lower power machine. So finally came to fruition.
Some things take a while. Good things come to those who wait, or something. Of course, there was also a new Surface Pro, the Surface Pro 4. It has a 12.3-inch screen, a little bigger than the Pro 3, but in the same dimensions of the case as the Surface Pro 3. That means it'll fit in your old dock, fits with the old keyboard. Has a Skylake processor as well. New Surface Pen is included. Has a tail-end eraser and alleged all-year battery life in your pen. A new type cover is out as well. It's a little slimmer and offers a fingerprint sensor. There's also one without the fingerprint sensor. It's about $150 with the fingerprint sensor, same $130 without. It and a new dock are compatible with the Surface Pro 3 as well. The tablet can have up to a terabyte of storage and 16 gigabytes of RAM, but that's not what you get if you only pay the starting price. The starting price is $899 in the U.S., available October 26th, and again, EU and UK pricing to be announced.
Yeah, and it's a good thing that it's compatible with that Surface Pro 3 dock if you happen to have one of those and save yourself a little bit of money, because the beastly version, the one that you would actually want, the one that I know Sebastian is crazy about, wants to actually compile code for the Pineapple on, can't believe it. It would probably be running Arch anyway, but $2,700 for the i7 and the 16 gig and the terabyte.
Yeah, so
You
keep
can do a lot better for a workstation class, and I wouldn't even call that a workstation class.
Well, and I'm already starting to wonder, would I want a Surface Pro 4 or would I just want a Surface Book? So I have an actual laptop, although the specs are a little better. I mean, the specs that you can get if you want to pay are a little better on the Pro 4, so I don't know. Interesting. Yeah. Hey, and if you have $3,000 lying around, which you must if you're going to pay these prices for all these high specs, write up a convincing application and you might end up with a HoloLens Development Edition in Q1 2016. The augmented reality / virtual reality headset from Microsoft has not had any spec updates, although earlier this year, Microsoft said the HoloLens would have an x86 processor, 2 gigs of RAM, 802.11 AC, and 60 hertz refresh rate. Interested developers in the US and Canada can apply at holotechinfo.com. Going to apply?
I mean, this is epic. For any hackerspace out there with like 300 members, they could just write in and say, yo, we're a hackerspace. We have 300 people. We all pitched in $10. Send us one. What do you think is gonna happen?
And Microsoft should absolutely say yes to that. That's when you get the coolest ideas.
Yeah. Although it's x86. I'm more interested in the GPU. I don't know why that. What's going on there, Microsoft? But anyway, whatever.
The new Microsoft Band has a curved screen and curved edges, so you don't have any actual edges that dig into your wrist anymore. Added Gorilla Glass, so it's a more durable screen. In addition to the previously existing GPS, optical heart rate monitor, UV monitor, and Cortana integration, Microsoft is adding a barometer, not to predict the weather, but to measure altitude, and VO2 Max, which attempts to measure your body's capacity for taking in oxygen, although there's some debate about how accurate they could be. It also claims 2 days of battery life. Cost you $249 to pre-order today for sale on October 30th. I like the Band. I really liked the Band at $199. I like it because it's cross-platform. You can use it with Windows, Android, or iOS. $249, I had no idea, really made me stop, made me hesitate. I was expecting that I might order one of these today, and as soon as I saw it was not $199 but $249, I paused. I hesitated.
Yeah, the other $50. I mean, you could get like how many Star Trek movies for that?
Or I could get all 10 Star Trek original series and Next Generation movies.
So what you're saying is if they made a Star Trek version of the Band that came with all the movies free, but the screen isn't really capable of playing them, so it doesn't.
No, but you know, if they're ultraviolet, I could just watch them anywhere else.
Well, there you go. See, Microsoft, we helped.
Oh, right. There were also phones. If you really care about the new Lumia phones, you probably read all the leaks before they announced them today. But here's the official line. Lumia 950 is a 5.2-inch phone coming in November for $549. The Lumia 950 XL is a 5.7-inch phone coming in November for $649. Both phones have 2560 by 1440 AMOLED screens, 3 gigabytes of RAM, 32 gigs of storage, USB Type-C, Qi wireless charging, and 20 megapixel rear cameras. You can log into both with your face. And the Lumia 550 is a affordable phone, 4.7-inch, 8 gigs of storage, coming in December for $139. And say it with me, no UK or EU pricing was announced.
I love that it's in your face, though. The infrared iris scanning stuff is actually the most interesting part, to me at least, because I find that the biometrics make like a really convenient username. Did you hear that? Username, not password. Come on, people. Like, the fact that we're logging in with just that, it bugs. But when used
appropriately, because you know what you can't do? Change your face.
Yet. Sure.
Yet. Well, that's true. You can. You really can. There's a place, now that I think about it, there's a place right down on the corner here that can do a lot towards changing your face, apparently, according to the ads outside. Wired reports that Reddit has launched a new site called Upvoted that makes original content out of surfaced Reddit posts published in a web magazine style. They've got an editorial team that verifies the accuracy of the story, interviews the original poster, and turns all of that into an article posted on upvoted.com. There are, however, no comments or upvoting on upvoted.com, but you can vote and comment on the stories in the Upvoted subreddit at /r/upvoted. The site will also sell sponsored content written by the same editorial team that's doing the other rewrites.
Right. So going back to the whole BuzzFeed thing and changing your face we were talking about, it sounds like it's Reddit, but for people who fear the community interaction and maybe the culture that goes along with Reddit. I mean, don't get me wrong. It sounds cool. It might actually bring new folks into the fold. It sounds like it's very much like Flip or whatever that thing is. However, makes me wonder, like, well, what will this potentially mean in the long term for other meta Reddit sites that kind of gather the same sort of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, let's set aside the controversies that Reddit has brought upon itself in the past. One of the things that Reddit has wanted to do is figure out how to monetize without changing the nature of its community. Now, I'm setting aside the controversies because a lot of those controversies have to do with moderating the community, and some of those may be tied into monetization as well. But this is an elegant response, which says, you guys create a lot of great content on Reddit. Let's surface that content. Let's highlight the posters. Let's give them credit, talk to them, give them a little additional voice, and publish it over here so that advertisers who are queasy about being next to controversial subreddits won't have to be, so that advertising isn't getting in the way of the experience on Reddit. It's a nice, clean way of doing it. I'm a little put off by the idea that you got one editorial team for sponsored and unsponsored content. That can often lead to issues and trouble, which then could blow back into the community. And I like the fact that they're like, yeah, no voting or comments over there. That's kind of, that's kind of the front face. But back of the house, we've got a subreddit where you can comment all day long. I think that's fair. No?
Yeah, no, I mean, it sounds good, but I wonder, like, with all of that, with the monetization scheme, there's been no word like, oh, and then we'll share it with Cool Guy 83 that, published all the cool stuff that we're now monetizing. Right?
Yeah, that would be cool if they cut in the poster as well. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, cutting in the poster would cutting in the poster be awesome, because then would it not just incentivize even more crappy crap on Reddit?
Well, it depends, right? If they're doing it right, it should incentivize really good stuff that Upvoted covers, but it depends on what Upvoted covers.
Yes, but we know what gets clicks, and it's not necessarily what some would consider the good stuff. But
well, that's going to all depend on the editorial team, and that's all. And they're not after clicks; they're after sponsored content. So they really need like engaged users, not bulk clicks. That's a good sign. I just don't know if anybody's going to read it. That's what it really comes down to.
Yeah, Tom, I was totally listening to everything you were saying as I enjoy my venti latte here. It was pretty amazing.
For the price of a venti latte.
Yes, you could actually support this show.
Ars Technica reports the Roku 4 was announced. The $129 device supports 802.11ac Wi-Fi, HDCP 2.2. That HDCP means you can get 4K video at 60 frames per second, but it also cracks down on unauthorized recording. The box itself is wider and flatter than previous Rokus, so that it can fit in a quad-core processor. It has a button you can press that will make the remote ring, so you can find the remote. New Roku 7.0 software lets Universal Search display results in order by price. You can also search by actor and director now, and track shows and movies in an improved feed. That software will also come to the Roku 3 and the streaming stick. The Roku 4 is available later this month for $129, as I said.
And do you think the Roku 4 can do 4 times what a Chromecast can do at a quarter of the price? Not to get all math.
Well, it's got different apps. I have to say, I prefer the Roku over the Chromecast.
Really?
I don't. It's a psychological thing where it's like, I have to pick up my phone.
Like, your phone is the best remote. It's already in your pocket.
Yeah, but it's not, because it screws up my Universal remote, because it switches the channel to Chromecast, but my Universal remote doesn't know that.
No. That's the whole thing. You make it the Universal remote.
But it doesn't control the other things on my TV, like my Apple TV or my TiVo or my Xbox.
Not universal. Anyway, yes, no, I feel you.
Yeah, it's a situational thing, though. I mean, I think you're right, though. Brand new Chromecast for $35. That's a compelling buy.
Yeah, and more choice, very good.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Universal Search, catching up on Roku, you can do that on the box. You can also do it in the app, and they're upgrading the app as well. So yeah, worth a look anyway.
Yeah, I should be more excited about this, considering the fact that like the set-top box wars, quote unquote, is nostalgic to the whole like Packard Bell and Compaq and HP and IBM and all of that of the heyday. So this is where that innovation is happening. So be it. Even if we were
talking on Cord Killers yesterday, the fact that Amazon is kicking the Chromecast and Apple TV out of its store is a sign that set-top boxes have made it, baby. Like, they're worth fighting over now. Motang suggested we mention that Sony says it will split off its semiconductor operations to encourage growth in its devices. When I say split off, that means that will become an independent business under Sony, kind of like what Alphabet is doing with Google. This is the section of Sony that makes the highly successful image sensor. The company makes sensors for phones like the iPhone, and it hopes to expand into the automotive market as well, as more sensors are needed for assisted driving and self-driving cars. Sony has been splitting underperforming business units into separate companies under itself up until now. This is the first time it's taken a successful unit and done it.
Yeah, I heard that Sony was actually going to take its new Sony Semiconductor company, and it was actually going to split off all of its departments, including R&D and fabrication and human resources, so that it can just dump those. In fact, I believe that every new employee at this company is, in fact, its own company within it. It's going to
Eventually. Do you think they'll do that? Like, eventually Alphabet and Sony are just like, we'd like to hire you. Can you form an LLC so we can acquire it?
I mean,
Thanks.
if we could do it with, yeah, sure. Just assign everyone a MAC address, LLC.
Sounds like a Neil Stephenson novel, actually.
That's just me, a little jaded.
TechCrunch reports Atlassian is breaking its JIRA issue tracking service into 3 separate products. JIRA Software for software teams, JIRA Core for business teams, and JIRA Service Desk for IT teams and other service teams. All 3 will come in hosted and self-hosted versions with prices starting at $10 a month for up to 10 users. JIRA Software is essentially the same as the current version. Service Desk is a standalone version of the add-on. If you've ever used the service add-on on JIRA, now you'll be able to just use that as its own program. And Core is basically a new version where they took JIRA Software and took out all the technical stuff and made it for non-technical teams. So it's not so much about bug tracking, it's more about project management.
See, fragmentation, it's a good thing.
Everybody's doing it. I don't know why you're so upset about it, Darren.
No,
Break
I'm not.
things into
I'm
small
excited.
pieces.
I'm excited about the rumors I heard that JIRA is actually looking at breaking all of its new products into individual add-ons so you can have it a la carte. Some of the add-ons even include save button and text field to enter data. All
This is really bugging you, isn't it?
add-ons can be had for 12 cents each. It's fantastic.
You
Users are gonna love
just long for the days of the Soviet Union, don't you? Just one big monolithic world.
I long for the days where our packets have passports, JKLOL.
The Associated Press reports that customer credit and debit card numbers may have been stolen from 7 Trump hotels after its payment systems were accessed by attackers between May 2014 and June 2015. Also, the hotel gift shop and restaurant systems were attacked. The company is offering affected customers a year of free identity theft protection and is working with the FBI and Secret Service to catch the perps.
Yay. I don't know about you, Tom, but I'm kind of having breach fatigue at this point. May have been stolen. At this point, I kind of feel like the credit card companies themselves, the Visas and the MasterCards, should issue a statement that they may have developed an inherently insecure payment system by which a symmetric key can compromise basically everyone on the planet everywhere. And
I think maybe they should break up their credit cards into individual numbers. So you could have 15 different numbers that you would put together. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously, yeah, breach fatigue is totally right. In fact, the only reason that I decided to even put this in the headlines is that they actually access credit card numbers. I know it's a maybe, but they're actually saying credit card numbers. Usually the breaches are like, they got email addresses and encrypted passwords, and we all focus on how good the encryption was on the passwords. But credit card numbers normally are stored on a separate database that is usually more well protected. Trump Hotels behind the times in that case.
No, that's the whole thing. Is if it's done right, it's all given the same kind of security and privacy that your password and credit card are given. But I don't want to get off on a crypto tangent.
Yeah,
just saying.
Encrypt all the things. That pretty much sums it up.
Yeah.
Ars Technica reports the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration has proposed a fine of $1.9 million against Skypan International for flying 65 unauthorized operations involving a drone between March 2012 and December 2014 in Chicago and New York. 2/3 of the operations were in New York in the Class B airspace there. Skypan has 30 days to appeal the fine. One of their appeal options is to say we won't pay it, and then it goes to an adjudicator and all that. So Class B airspace, that means like the really congested part. That means Manhattan, right?
Yeah, basically. And not just Manhattan. It gets kind of complicated. This whole thing, to me, seems like the FAA is actually going after some low-hanging fruit in that Skypan just consists of one guy. And if he doesn't settle with them, then it could go to court, and then they could actually set a precedence. And I mean, I don't know the exact details of his particular flights, but I'd say that, Class B airspace can be some of the trickiest to navigate, drones notwithstanding. Not all airports are Class B. Most of them, in fact, are actually Class C, which is basically, imagine a cone that's 5 miles, like a 5 mile in diameter or in radius cylinder around an airport. But Class B, which is what you typically find around the major hubs, your Chicagos and New Yorks and such, they basically look like an upside-down wedding cake consisting of a bunch of different shelves that get wider the higher you go. So in some cases, they extend out up to 15 miles around the airport. And this is the exact reason why the AMA recommends just stay under 400 feet and 5 miles away from an airport for your model aircraft. My fear here is that the FAA would actually use this as some sort of way to make a blanket policy statement that could potentially prohibit UAS or drone flights in major metropolitan areas. And it's the sort of thing where I'm really wishing that we had kind of an equivalent of the EFF or ACLU for the model aircraft community. Just based on recent events, I would not expect the AMA to be that. So this could actually have ridiculously far-reaching impacts, that could even potentially prohibit a 5-ounce plastic toy from flying around in Central Park or public spaces of the like. I mean, the thing is, the laws are so ambiguous that even flying like a little toy quadcopter in your New York City apartment could be considered a violation of the national airspace. It's just all sorts of tricky.
Yeah, and the fact that the FAA, as we talked about last Friday, has missed their deadline, could be a good or a bad thing, as Darren said, but it means that a lot of this stuff is left up in the air. We don't have, tested regulations to point to and say, well, this is what the regulation says. We don't even have regulations to point to and say this part should be changed. So it all, pardon the expression, is up in the air right now.
Right, this could be Raphael Parker all over again, and it's actually my fear that the FAA is dragging its feet on these regulations so that they can create enough precedents or case law based on these sorts of events to get something way overreaching, and that's just my fear.
Finally, the Court of Justice for the European Union ruled that a safe harbor agreement on data transfer between the U.S. and the EU should not prevent investigation into breaches of privacy protections, and further determined the safe harbor agreement was invalid. This means that national data regulators in EU countries are free to determine on a case-by-case basis if tech companies are properly protecting EU citizens' rights when transferring data to the United States. Court made its decision to invalidate safe harbor because U.S. legislation permits public authorities to access electronic communications on a general basis, and individuals have no opportunity to pursue legal remedies for access, rectification, or erasure of any of that personal data. And that's going to be our main topic today. Thanks to everybody who submits stories, including that one right there, in the subreddit, dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. That's a look at the headlines. So, no, this is not going to mean that as of today, all U.S. companies have to create data servers in the EU for all EU citizens' data. It does not mean that yet. They declared the safe harbor agreement invalid because of what I said. Now, what this will do is make data transfers more complicated since they don't have the blanket protection. The reason for safe harbor was so the companies didn't have to think about it. There are 4,500 signatories to the agreement, and all of those signatories could just be like, we can move data back and forth as long as we adhere to the guidelines of the privacy policy. This will encourage companies to silo customer data within countries, but it doesn't necessarily require them yet. It will also complicate the creation of a new US-EU data agreement because it expands the stakeholders from the European Commission to all of Europe's national data regulators. They're already asking to be included in those talks. U.S. Secretary of Commerce Penny Pritzker is seeking an updated safe harbor agreement, but the European Union is not really responding. What it will not do is stop any kind of surveillance by the NSA, the GCHQ, or any other government agency. If you want to do that, the EFF says you need to reform Section 7.2 of the U.S. FISA Amendment or reformulate U.S. Executive Order 12333. So Darren, this is a tricky one, right? Because a lot of people think they have eliminated protections on data. A lot of people think they found Facebook guilty. Neither one of those things are true. There's not an elimination of any protection on data. In fact, all this says is there's no blanket protection anymore. You now have to prove that you honor our privacy regulations. And Facebook has said we do that. We were already protected. We have our own way of following EU guidelines. So once we go back to court, we believe we will be victorious. And in fact, the advocate for the EU even said we don't think Facebook's guilty of anything. This is just setting a guideline and setting a precedent, right?
Right. They're saying that this doesn't uphold, and I love this, that this is an EU law, quote, your fundamental right to respect for private life. We should have a version of that. Good stuff. Basically, the judgment makes it clear that now national data protection authorities can review data transfers into the U.S. individually on a case-by-case basis. So what that opens itself up to is that more EU citizens, like the one that caused this entire judgment to happen, can challenge this on a case-by-case basis when it comes to data leaving the EU and into U.S. servers and whatnot. And that's where you'll see potential major changes. So it just means that people fighting the good fight in the EU now have actually kind of a leg to stand on this, and it's really just opened the floodgates for all sorts of messy stuff.
Yeah, and it's both good and bad, right? Austrian Max Schrems brought the case against Facebook. He wasn't really arguing anything about Facebook in particular. He was arguing that the PRISM program that Edward Snowden made public violated the safe harbor agreement. Facebook tried to defend itself saying, no, the safe harbor agreement is fine. The Irish Data Protection Agency said, no, safe harbor means that, they're fine. The Irish court said, we're not going to investigate this because there's safe harbor. And Schrems got them to send it to the European Court of Justice in order to determine if safe harbor was still valid. And this is the big decision. No, safe harbor isn't valid. So now Facebook has to defend itself on its own merits. Now, Facebook feels pretty confident that it can do that. But do all 4,500 signatories to the safe harbor agreement feel that way? And like you say, it's now a mess because instead of having blanket protection that became the only thing a court had to look at, the court now has to look at every individual case and say, okay, what are your policies? How do you follow them? What do you do with the data? And does it meet our standard? There's no longer an agreed safe harbor standard that is more limited that they have to show.
Right, and so we've only tackled one of those signatories now. So the question becomes, what is going to happen when the same thing is challenged against Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom? I think when you put all five of those together, isn't that what the Five Eyes or something like that? I think that's
and the UK is in the EU. So that makes that even more complicated because, hold on, is the GCHQ actually abiding by the EU's own privacy regulations? The GCHQ says it is because it's only going after foreign targets. Then, to make it even more complicated, you have the Department of Justice in the United States trying to get Microsoft to hand over data about a U.S. citizen that is stored on a server in Ireland. And Microsoft is saying, no, you have to go to Ireland's courts to get that data. It's in Ireland. And the U.S. is saying, no, you're a U.S. company. You have to give it to us. We don't care where it is. So this is a mess. And it is, in fact, the distributed nature of the internet, which doesn't have borders, trying to deal with borders. This is a precedent-setting situation here.
Right, and then only three real possibilities have been kind of proposed. One that Facebook, many other U.S. companies that also operate in the EU will need to keep their European data within Europe, which means building out data centers and the like in EU, which could be good for the economy there, or that they would actually need to provide some real protection for the EU data when it flows back to the U.S., which is an interesting one. I'll come back to that. And then the third route is that the EU could actually negotiate another safe harbor agreement with the U.S., and that's probably, I don't know, maybe more likely. But I love the concept of like, okay, you know what? I've talked about this numerous times, how I hate fragmentation. This is why I'm joking about JIRA and Sony fragmenting, because in this case, it can actually create so much good. rather than having packets with passports that say I'm an EU packet and things of that nature, if you're a company that's doing business on the internet, which is global, then why would you potentially have different regulations or different policies for data handling for an EU bit of data versus a non-EU bit of data? You'd go, okay, well, if in this case I need to comply with these EU standards, why not simply upgrade all of your data to the higher standard, in which case it actually makes, like NSA, you just shot yourself in the foot. It could potentially make things so much better for all of us.
Last October, Facebook General Counsel Colin Stretch was speaking and said the internet is a medium without borders, and the notion that you would have to place data and data centers and the data itself in a particular location is fundamentally at odds with the way the internet is architectured. So yeah, the safe bet would be to keep all of the data centers that store citizens' data in the countries where those citizens are. But essentially, the tech companies are saying that's just not the way it works.
No,
that is not practical. It is not the way the internet works in its most efficient manner, and it might even not be entirely achievable for various technical reasons. So that leaves a lot of pressure between the tech companies and the governments to say you need to come up with a better way of managing this, and that may be why this is the best thing, is that it will force the United States and the European Union to come to a new agreement, and the United States is not going to want to give up its surveillance that it has held onto and clutched onto so tightly, but that is the crux of the issue between the EU and the US. And so the US is going to have to really decide how much it wants to hold those surveillance powers, how much it wants to leave them openly defined, because I don't think the EU would mind if the US really held to what it says, in that we only go after data of legitimate suspects. That's what the US's defense has always been. Mm-hmm. And what the EU is saying is, sure, that's fine, but that's not the way your law works. Your law works that you can seize any data and nobody can tell what data you seized, and nobody can come to rectify it if they aren't a legitimate suspect. Everyone's presumed guilty.
Right, and you don't want to like fix this on a technical means and just like not interoperate, because then the whole inter part of the internet breaks. I love these clashes between the two powerhouses that have their own citizens, some that have citizens across the globe and some that have citizens within their borders, where the government's used to operating in a old-fashioned way of thinking, and they're like, hey, wait a second, you're operating within our borders, you have to follow these rules, when ultimately these corporations that run on the internet, honestly, they have their own citizens. They might as well have, now I'm not saying the corporations, but the cloud, as it were, might as well have its own sovereignty, because you look at what it generates. It's got a higher GDP than any of the other nations that just have access to that cloud.
And you're just talking about the tech companies willing to play by the rules.
Right.
There are plenty of organizations out there moving data around all over the place without any kind of accountability to anyone. And you don't want to encourage more of that to happen if you're one of these governments. You want to make it so that Facebooks and Googles of the world will live in the transparent above net, not the undernet.
Imagine worst case scenario, governments of the world, that you really piss off enough of these internet companies that they're just like, okay, fine, we're going to take our ball and play elsewhere. And now you've got an uprise of citizens that are like, wait, I can't share my baby photos? Are you what? And then, uprise. Woo-hoo.
Yeah. All right, let us know what you think, folks. It's a complex issue, and I don't think any of us really know the exact answer to it. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. Our pick of the day comes from Jordan. He recommends the MyFitnessPal. I know that seems kind of silly next to like the rights of your data and privacy and surveillance, but it integrates amazingly well with various fitness trackers, he says, and it goes together with the Microsoft stories today. He uses a Microsoft Band. But Jordan says, I know they integrate with a lot of other trackers too. The app helps you determine what your daily caloric goal should be. When you add food, it subtracts from the total left for the day, and then it will add calories based on your exercise. He says, I know nutrition is often more complex than this, but what this helps me with more than anything is awareness. It opened my eyes to how a little snacking here and there can add up in massive amounts by the end of the day, and by the same token, automatic integration with my band immediately helps me know how effective some exercise was overall. He finishes up, turns out a 45-minute run isn't actually enough to totally negate a burger, a fries, plus a bunch of junk food. So there you go. Check it out, MyFitnessPal. It's an app, and you can get it for multiple platforms. Send your picks to us, feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. You can find my picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. Use any kind of fitness trackers or Do you ever tried any of these calorie counters or
Yeah,
anything like
I've
that?
tried some of these, and I kind of get to the point where I actually don't like the metrics because for me it's a much more personal thing of like, yeah, am I happy with where I am? But I get that what happens, at least to me, when I have that scorecard above me, kind of like like I'm playing Contra and I see how many lives I have left or points or whatever I've accumulated, I end up like, oh, I want to eat that. Oh no, I can't. And then like, I don't know, I just spin out, and suddenly I can't eat anything because it's all terrible.
You rage quit the game.
I rage quit. Yes.
Our message of the day comes from Kevin in wonderful Wichita, who says, I'm very excited to see what you guys are still doing. I was an early adopter of the Amazon Echo. I like it very much, especially the music capabilities with the voice command. Occasionally with the Echo, I throw things out there to see if they stick. You can tell that the Echo is evolving through various new responses, etc. And of course, you can see it on the Amazon Echo app online. However, something I didn't know about was a great surprise. Imagine my elation when I told my roommate Alexa to play DTNS, and with no further instruction, she did. So this adds to the dozen or so other ways I have to listen to DTNS whenever I want throughout the day. Yeah. Good call, Kevin. That's actually thanks to Alpha Geek Radio. Their integration with the TuneIn app means that you can then say, play DTNS, and she'll do it.
That's pretty cool. I wonder how many of those things that you throw at Echo that it doesn't actually understand. It just sends back to the mothership, and then there's some people at Amazon are going through all of these crazy things going, can we implement this? And who's George? And why do you want to throw all of his clothing in the... anyway, never mind.
Not highly indexed. Let's move on to another. Yeah, I mean, I imagine they do look at the kinds of phrases that might come up frequently. They don't store failed responses, they say. So they wouldn't necessarily be seeing that a lot. But I bet they have test groups, right? Everybody does.
I would hope.
Yeah.
I mean, that's always the trickiness between making a product better in privacy and things of that nature. So there's technological means around it, but good stuff.
If you want to get better at the technological means around you, you've got to check out Hack5. Twitter.com/Hack5Darren to follow Darren. It's HAK5DARREN. And then go to the website, HAK5.org, because you guys are always up to something good.
That's right. Yeah, we were talking about encrypting all the things. You can learn how to do that. Episode 1904 on the Hack5 homepage right now. Talking about easy file encryption with Keybase. We also talked about GPG and other stuff for Windows, for Mac, for Linux. It's social, it's on the web, it's easy. So learn all about that and other good stuff over at hak5.org. You'll find Shannon and Patrick Norton doing Tech Thing, and just all sorts of fun stuff to dive in and learn about.
Hey, thanks to everybody who supports the show here. dailytechnewsshow.com/support is the link to go to find out the ways you can support. If you do support the show, we thank you very much, as does everybody who listens to the show, for making the show possible. If you don't support the show, would you be willing to? Go to dailytechnewsshow.com/support and let us know. And another thing you can do is give us a review on iTunes. It does help the show get more widely exposed. You can put the star rating in there and then write whatever you want in the review thing. You can just tell us what thing you would like to see broken up into multiple pieces. And it doesn't matter. It still helps us. So go review the show there or in whatever podcasting service you use. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. Give us a call, 512-59-DAILY. That's 512-593-2459. Listen to the show live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com and visit our website, dailytechnewsshow.com. Back tomorrow with Scott Johnson and Lindsay Gilpin. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Echo, donate to DTNS.
No! Oh my god. We're gonna get so many emails.
Echo doesn't work usually.
Yeah,
most people haven't switched it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's like Alexis or something.
that was a safe way to.
Yeah. Okay, Google, donate to DTNS.
Now
we're
everybody's
gonna
wallet's
get
just
emails.
emptied.
I just imagine that, like, when you're not in the house, Echo and Google Now and Siri are all just like having conversations with each other.
Can you believe what he asked me today?
No, Can you believe me is not recognized. Please clarify.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that.
Your flight is leaving at 9:30 a.m. You should leave soon.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. You say that to everyone.
We should have a. You should. Oh man, I'm sorry. Just a podcast should exist that is Siri and Google Now, like hosting a show.
Siri and Google Now. We'd like to welcome our guest, Amazon Echo.
I'm sorry, I did not understand that. Yeah.
Where is a TCBY? I have found 5 TCBYs. That's their banter.
Yeah. Playing TCBY discography.
No.
Navigate podcast off the cliff.
Cannot locate podcast off the cliff. Yeah, I don't know. Are there still TCBYs? I don't know why that popped into my head, actually.
When you first said that, I thought it was an acronym for some internet thing that I'm not familiar with. I almost pulled up Wikipedia to figure it out. And I still think it might be.
It might, actually, unintentionally, be true.
Why is there not a disambiguation article? Wow, that's actually scary. Is TCBY the only trademark holder for the... What? No.
For TCBY?
Wikipedia, you fail me. I'm going over...
Captain Fubar says there's a TCBY right down the street.
Urban Dictionary TCBY. Don't let me down.
Shipping 20 TCBY to your home.
Would you like to hear some titles?
Yes, thank you.
The country's best yogurt.
How about Reddit for adults?
That actually sounds like a
Yeah, I think that gives the wrong impression.
Don't judge a book
Rand
by
NSFW.
its surface.
Oh, that's clever.
Carpe Datem.
That's pretty good.
I like that.
Packets without borders.
Yeah, it's common if I'm on.
Data without borders.
Trump needs to build a firewall. Way to go, I see you. Probably not our ultimate title, but that is clever.
Not so safe harbor.
I like that one.
Tubes without borders.
Cat video uprising.
All right, tell me what you want.
I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. I'm sorry, you did it. It was your fault.
Searching discography. Song found. Now playing on repeat forever.
No!
Lock mode activated.
I've got to put a title in right now.
Right now, I'm
Right
going to
now.
say Carpe
That's urgent.
Datem.
Carpe Datem? What do you think, Darren?
Yeah, that's good.
I almost asked Roger, and he's not here. So that would have been a long
That
time.
would take a long time to answer.
Carpe the Datum.
Oh, man.
Why did you name your show about fish?
That was a fun show.
That was good.
Yeah. Sorry for a little too snarky in the news fuse with the breaking up stuff, but I felt like kind of set ourselves up for the internet breakup.
It did. It totally did.
What if we broke up with the internet? I mean, actually, what if the internet broke up with the EU and the US and Australia and New Zealand?
I'm sorry, EU. It's you, not me.
I'm sorry, 193 nations of the United Nations. We could maybe be friends. You can dial me up at...
Just give me some time to live.
Oh! Tom. Wow. No one gets me like Tom. Why couldn't you be a hot blonde, Tom?
Ah, well. Wait. Hey, wait. What?
I'm just joking.
What is going on?
What are you trying to say? Hot blonde?
I'm just saying, Tom gets me.
It just, we share a love of protocol jokes. What can I say?
Tom actually W gets me. Either in the post method or I get.
I grepped you.
You guys are killing me.
He greps me, I grok it. You don't grok the grep?
Jenny's going to go back to doing her Siri voice now in self-defense. I'm sorry, I don't understand.
I'm sorry. I'm turning you off now.
There is limited connectivity.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Adding handcuffs
dinosaur sounds.
to shopping list.
That's what Google Now should do when there's no connectivity. You know how Chrome will show the dinosaur?
Mm-hmm.
The little pixelated dinosaur guy? Chrome, like, Google Now should just go, "Rawr!"
Just give you the raptor sound.
Yeah, do the raptor sound, and then have Google Now go, I am a dinosaur.
All right.
Yes. Okay, I should go do the thing.
I'm uploading, so I'm stuck.
Go do the thing.
But yeah, go do the thing. Tell all the
Darren.
peoples there hello.
All right, will do. You enjoy your Y modem upload.
I will. I'm going to send all the packets up. Thanks, Darren. And then there were two.
And then there were two. And one of them's looking at houses because she's
Still?
so mad. I'm still looking at houses. I'm
Where
so
are you,
mad.
what region of the country are you looking at now?
No, now I'm looking at Burbank.
Oh, okay. You've gone to practical mode now.
Yeah, I know. I had to indulge myself with
Of course.
prices.
Of
Yeah.
course.
But my main concern is that I'm mad that my car got broken into, even though it was a crime of opportunity.
That sucks, though. That was what bothered me. I mean, let me rephrase. When we lived in the neighborhood we lived in Oakland, it was a great neighborhood, and we loved it. But there is sort of like a fatigue you get over time of little things like that.
Yeah.
And some people say, oh, you get used to it, and it's true. But it just wears on you.
It's like, I think what I'm trying to say is I want to be able to make one little mistake. Not me, but that person wants to be
You don't want to have
one
to
little
think about
mistake.
things all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that.
Yeah, I remember when we lived in San Rafael, one time I came back from Twit, and, that's a 20-minute drive away, and the garage door was open, had been open all day.
Yeah.
And it was fine.
That's fine.
Do that in a different neighborhood, not fine, not okay.
I'm just
Although you'd be surprised. Sometimes you could do something like that, in downtown Oakland, and it would be fine, just on weirdness, but less likely.
yeah.
Move to a small town. I was born in a small town. I could breathe in a small town.
Yeah. I knew you were going there.
I'll probably not die in a small town, though, unlike John. It's possible. If I die in a small town, I want to die in a small town in Hawaii somewhere.
That's true. Oh, let's look at real estate in Hawaii.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, let's not.
That ain't cheap. Carpe Datem. I bet
I like
I've
that
titled
title.
something that before, now that I'm looking at it, but I still like it.
It's okay. You could say Carpe Datem 2.0 just to cover yourself.
Carpe Datem again. Minor change. For those of you who may have had issues, and you're probably not listening to this if you did, but if you had issues with your podcatcher not being able to download the file because it says MP3E, which some podcast apps handle just fine, and they say, oh, we can tell it's an MP3, we'll play it anyway. Others crash. I have changed my template so that the bit that said place MP3 here, which is what was causing the E to show up, is I would paste the link over that text, but sometimes not delete the E at the end of here, I've changed. So it doesn't say place MP3 here anymore. It just has the quote marks. So I won't accidentally leave an E in anymore. Hopefully that will get rid of that problem.
That's interesting.
And now I've posted the show. Oh, this show is so posted.
Oh, I have to do the video
You do have to do the video today.
because there is no Roger.
Poor El Rojer.
But I'm going to do it out of the YouTube thing
Okay. Yeah,
and
that's
not
fine.
out of the other way because the other way makes me upset.
The only reason we started doing the other way is because the YouTube thing wasn't working, but I think it's
Yeah, it
working
takes
now.
so long, but yeah.
Oh, thank you, Sony. Sony's kindly reminding me that my PlayStation Plus membership is set to renew. It's very nice of them. All right, I think I'm done. I think our work here is
Sweet.
done, Jenny.
Sweet.
Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.